So this is politics as usual. Um, Pretty much, I like people like to move on after black people are shot. Oh, it was just, oh, someone's dead. Let's move on. But we're not going to move on. We're always going to remember people's names, especially a 16-year-old who died in foster care, which is definitely hits me right at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people I know right at home, they hear this story. It was pretty fantastically awful because it sounds like something any one of us could have been in when we were teenagers. So,
Especially when the foster parent doesn't really give a shit about you.
yeah, and we're gonna bring that up today. So, pretty much, because I had to pretty much bootleg this article from the Dispatch, the Columbus Dispatch, because it was behind the paywall and stuff like that. Don't ask me questions how I got it, but
Oh, shit.
John wrote
You
it.
do know
John,
this is like public, right?
yeah. I had to lift it off the internet, But pretty much, this article is this is real journalism right here. It's not just like looking at a police report and copying and pasting it. This actually goes into like the court records and the trauma that Ma'Khia had before this all happened. Pretty much, this is really traumatic. Pretty much, Ma'Khia Bryant was removed from her mother's home when she was 13 because of allegations of abuse. So we don't, even if it's messed up that her story is out in the open like this, but it's pretty much we know that the abuse was happening. So she was being abused, and to know that she was murdered by police after a child being abused, it's a sad story. And the fact that people are still justifying that, yeah, she deserves to get shot, are just weird coon town motherfuckers who throughout history are going to be thrown underneath the bus. Who gives a fuck about those people? But
Well, I see it like this.
yeah,
Um, when I look at what happened to her and I look at what happened to George Floyd, and for me, it was very easy to see that George Floyd was murdered. And Ma'Khia's, I don't know if I'm saying her name properly. I think that it was definitely more of a gray area from the police officer's perspective. But I put the blame on the foster mother. Me being in foster care, coming from foster care, having been removed from my mother's custody at age 2 because of obvious abuse, disgusting, severe abuse that I suffered from before I was 6 months old all the way up until they used to call it BCW in New York, the Bureau of Child Welfare. And then I was abused in the foster home, right? So it hits me hard because whether or not, you believe the police officer went there to kill a black person or not, the foster parent put that girl in that position.
yeah.
To
I
call
don't give a shit
grown
anymore.
women,
People who justify a shooting is fucking weirdos at this point. We have so much
but
footage of
I don't
people
know if it
killing
can
people.
be.
We have people killing their whole families, and the cops is like getting them sandwiches afterwards.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like, people with blood in their hands, butt ass naked,
Yeah.
running around with knives, going
Yeah.
in like this is nonsense. I'm tired of people justifying black people being killed by police on camera. It's tiring, and he's a coon. So you need to read some fucking books about history. Keep justifying these shootings over and over again. And we have time and time again of maniacs being brought into custody after they kill people, after they rape people, time and time again.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
you go back
nonsense.
to South Carolina,
Yeah.
like he sat there in a Bible, and this is the thing that fucks me up. Like, they welcomed him in, like, hey, everybody, here's a young white guy who looks strange, because that motherfucker looks strange as fuck. And they still welcomed him in there, and he's like, wow, you guys are so nice. Let me repay you with lead. So I definitely understand how you feel. I'm just trying not to jump to conclusions because I don't have all the information
And this
on
is why
that
we're
one
gonna.
particular
This is why we're gonna
shooting.
rotate back to the
We're gonna come back to it?
story.
Right,
So-
yeah. So for me,
So pretty much,
I focus on the foster care portion of it
and
because
that's what we're gonna do right
I
now.
was in Ma'Khia. Is it Ma'Khia or is it Ma'Khia?
It's probably Ma'Khia.
When I was in young Miss Bryant's situation, anything could have,
Yeah,
even
that's-
at age
that's why-
3 or 4, something bad like that could have
And that's
happened
why I
to
want to
me.
focus back into this article and get deeper.
Yeah,
into
the foster mother. Yeah, the
Okay.
foster mother sent
So
called over
even
adult
before
woman.
we're going back even before the foster mother, Dr. Virginia. So I want to take this back even further. This is going back to like allegations of abuse by the mother. This is like we're going stepping back. Yeah, the
Oh,
step.
so we're going. Oh,
We're
wow,
going
we're
back. We're
taking it
going
back.
back. We're going back to like this the spectrum of abuse that happened in the story that really complicates it and makes you really more of a gray area of like
Right.
the four children made allegations of abuse against their mother. Pretty much they were in custody of their grandmother, and the grandmother didn't want to have them anymore. Um, so this what happened. And then after the grandmother, and this is when they got put. It was pretty much time and time again. It seemed like those red flags that there's trauma of these kids are causing them to lash out on people. And then the next story we're gonna go into is the foster home, which is a whole nother can of
Right.
fucking worms. But even before the foster home, the welfare services was pretty much just tossing this kid back and forth between homes and not really checking in with the
Passing the
homes.
buck, hot potato.
Yeah, and we can get into further how shitty child welfare services in Ohio. I mean, they are fantastically bad people, and hopefully reform happens. So we're gonna go into this next article, which kind of shows you the foster care mom side, which is totally even more neglect happening here. Um, pretty much, this article. This is a Newsweek article, so it's not behind a. They have enough money, I guess.
How much money is enough money?
So, so pretty much the foster home had over a dozen 911 calls since 2017. A dozen. The police are already kind of familiar with this fucking house.
Kinda.
Yeah, they're kind of familiar. They kind of been going to this house. So this is another story about them
Every
not
three
knowing what's
months, they're showing
happening.
up at the same address.
About them not knowing what's happening at this house when they pretty much have intimate knowledge of this fucking house at this point.
And then, remember, that house is supposed to be a safe haven for those who have abused, who have been abused. And I think that that's one of the things that really bothers me about it, because again, I was in a similar predicament where, I was removed from the custody of my mother, and then it's like, well, any place is better than this. Well,
Yo,
is it?
Yeah, we got to give you the list of things that 911 different. This is just what Newsweek has pulled up. Like the foster mom put a 911 call for a 13-year-old girl on April 7th who left the foster home. This, like we've been in situations we had like housemates just leave and never come back. And this was happening in this foster home pretty much. 13-year-old. And then we had in December, Moore, the foster mom, called for a 10-year-old boy turning on her because he was knocking down items in the Christmas tree. She called the police on a 10-year-old boy. In 2017, an 18-year-old told dispatchers that she would commit suicide if the foster mom would not let her leave the home. So this is like time and time again, a lot of red flags that the cops honestly can't fix.
Can we talk? Can we talk about for a second? Can we talk about this thing that people don't want to talk about?
Yeah.
And it's these so-called foster parents that are only taking these children in so that the government will pay them.
Oh, man.
And a lot of these children are being removed from their parents' home because of the poverty of the parent. So they remove the child from the parent's home who's struggling financially to pay somebody else. And we already know that no one is going to take care of your kid. No one is going to care for it. No one's going to love your kid more than you or even on the same level as you, but they'll take your kid from you to put them in a situation with somebody who is biologically engineered not to give a fuck about that child.
Yo, Dr. Virginius, I'm telling you, this is a shit sandwich rabbit hole. You bring this up, I just want to segue to the next controversy. This is a controversy that was happening before. This is bigger than Bryant and anything. All those kids, what you brought up.
Damn, you knocking the mic around? You pissed off, son.
Yeah, but you just segue into something that's really important. I want to bring this up. This is a lawsuit that's been happening in Ohio. What you're talking about is actually a class action lawsuit against Ohio, where family services pretty much because they've been pretty much not giving the families money. They haven't been giving the families money. So pretty much what's happening in violation of federal law, Ohio provides far less financial support to a child in state custody who is placed with a relative or a close family friend.
Yep.
Then it gives to a child placed in a licensed quotation mark about licensed foster care setting. So Ohio,
aka group home,
they created the conditions for this to happen. So
And
And
then
this,
and then if you want to go back and talk about Tamir Rice being shot by police, if you want to talk about the black people who have had their lives ended or they've been, otherwise maimed in Ohio, they're making the case for us that we kind of think Ohio is kind of racist. All right, like, sorry. And what I mean by Ohio, I don't mean the individual people
oh,
who
I mean,
tend to
Ohio
inhabit
State, yeah,
Ohio. We're talking about the
yeah,
system.
yeah.
Like, look at the position that you're putting the kids in. You're actually paying people less money that have a reason to care about the child than you're paying the people who don't give a fuck about them. And
Look
then
at
you
this,
wonder like how these things can happen.
and
Of
they have
course
to,
she's gonna go look for some adult to go beat up a child. She doesn't care about the child. She doesn't care about any of those children. In fact, one of her foster children had to call 911 in the hopes that she would be protecting her older foster sister. And we already know how that ended.
and
But
it,
you can't even look to the foster parent to protect the child. What is the kid supposed to do?
I mean, we had a call we brought up in the Newsweek article about a kid calling in December threatening to commit suicide if they don't leave the house. So this is the conditions that was happening in this foster home before we got to this. So it was gonna. That's the thing about it. It's all these red flags led to this situation. You could have saw this situation coming a long time ago, since 2017. But apparently they rather take money. So we see this right here. It says, for example, in one of the counties, a kinship caregiver, which is like the foster care parent, the relative, the kinship,
The kinship,
the relative, or close family friend, um, receives only $302 to take care of one child, while a licensed foster care provider receives $624 and a maximum of $2,619 a month. So a stranger gets all the money for this kid, while the family wasn't getting a dime for anything. I mean, this is like,
it's almost like the school to prison pipeline. It feels like it's a part of that.
So like, I really want to break this down, Black Power Magical, because everyone's focused on like, did she have to get shot? Did she want to get shot?
Right.
Did you want to get
Right.
shot? We're focused more on the conditions that led to this situation that happened.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to focus on this woman calling other grown women to come to her house to force that child to go outside to get jumped by adult women. That is not what someone who cares about someone, that is not what they do.
And as we see the track record for this Moore,
and she gets shot because she's trying to defend herself, because you don't know what's going to happen when somebody twice your age, no, there's at least two people twice your age, looking to jump you. Well, what do? Grab the nearest sharp object that you can and pray that they'll leave you alone.
yeah.
What else is there?
And it's leaving it like that. Like, as we know, the police filed at least 13 reports from the same house. So the police were not going to a strange new world. They were going to a place they've been to 13 times already.
Lots of paperwork.
So they already know quite well about the foster mom and the conditions of that house. So to say that they did not know what was going to happen there is you're justifying crazy shit in the future to come, for things to come right now and for things to come. So
yeah.
So that's Black Power Magic Hour. That's politics as usual, unfortunately. Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, act.tv, also 50,000 subscribers. And Dr. Genius, he's got a new podcast. Check it out on Twitch. Badgram, I don't know what you call it, Narcigram, and YouTube. Talking shit.
Badgram. I'm done. I'm done, son.
Yeah, so that's Black Power Magic Hour. Politics as usual.